After a recent episode, my cousin Glenville asked me about alpha privatives and whether they come from Greek. And yes, they do. And today we're going to take a look at alpha privatives by examining a few of my favorites. But first off, what is an alpha privative? An alpha privative uses the letter alpha in front of a noun to sort of negate it or signal deprivation. Signal deprivation, what do you mean by that? So if you deprive someone of something, you're taking it away, or you're not allowing them to access it in the first place, or you're lessening or eliminating a property of something. So when we put the alpha in front of a noun, we're negating it, almost reversing its meaning. We're taking away the essence of what it is. Now, if a noun begins with a vowel, we don't just add the alpha, we usually add an alpha nu. So an rather than a. But that's what alpha privatives do, and to start looking at them, we'll take a look at one of my favorites, and that is anomos. So the word nomos means law or rule or standard. Anomos means lawlessness. And that can either be the absence of the law or a disregard for the law. One of my favorite verses that uses this word is sin is lawlessness in 1 John. Sin is lawlessness. The law says thou shalt not, but when you say, I don't care what that says, I'm going to do what I want, that is anomos, that is lawlessness, that is a disregard for the law. It's not an absence of the law in that case, it's a disregard for the law. We have a great English derivative, anomaly. So if something is an anomaly, it is outside the expected standard of things. So if you're doing a test and you get a result that is wildly outside of what you normally get for that test, you would consider that an anomaly. It doesn't comport with the standard or the rule. Let's move on, take a look at another. Ateknos. Ateknos means childless, and it comes from the noun teknon, which means child, but here's an interesting thing to give us a glimpse into Greek thought. So all Greek nouns are either masculine, feminine, or neuter. They don't always directly comport to what we think of as sex or gender in the real world, but they're all gendered nouns. Teknon is a neuter noun. So when the Greeks looked at young children, prepubescent children, they didn't think that sex was a factor. It didn't matter. They were just kids. Once they hit puberty, they were looked at as being male or female. Little kids, prepubescent kids, neuter noun, teknon. Tekna in the plural. But look at our word that we're considering here. Ateknos is a masculine noun, which tends to talk about people or things. So a person who is childless is ateknos. People, plural, who are childless would be ateknoi. But I want you to contemplate with me for a moment. We don't apply that word to prepubescence because there are no 5-year-olds with children, right? The assumption here is that when we call someone childless, they're someone who is of a procreative age. Otherwise, it would be a non-issue. If you're 7 years old, of course you're childless. But if you're 16 years old or 26 years old or 56 years old and have no children, you are ateknos, childless. Let us carry on. The next one is agamos, from gamos, married. Agamos means unmarried, but look right below it, agamos, with an omega sigma ending rather than an omicron sigma, which usually we would think of as an adverb, means that you are divorced. So something has been done to you and something has been done to your marriage and it no longer exists. So agamos unmarried, agamos, divorced. Interesting. Let's carry on and look at another one. Adikia means unrighteousness or wrongdoing, and adikos means unjust or an unjust person. Now, we have two words, dikaios, just or righteous, and dikaiosune, righteousness, that share the same root, this delta iota kappa root. So if a person is just, they are dikaios. If they are unjust, they are adikios, or adikos, pardon me. Or adikios would work as well. But adikia is unrighteousness, because the feminine noun adikia, here an adjective, but the feminine is about sort of the characteristic or quality, unrighteousness, and adikos is in the masculine is more about a person. This is an unjust person. So interesting how the use of the feminine and the masculine differentiates sort of the quality, the characteristic in the feminine, and a person carrying that quality or characteristic in the masculine. Next, we're going to look at the word group that comes from catharsis. So in English, if you experience catharsis, it's like a cleansing, an emotional cleansing, a purging of things that are sort of bad stuff in your life. Now let's look at three words that are alpha privatives from catharsis. Akatharsia is refuse, impurity, and it's applied to the defiling contents of a grave, and it is feminine. It is that quality of stuff that is carries impurity and is defiling, is kind of nasty. Then we get akathartes, which is also feminine, but it is uncleanness, the quality of uncleanness. And then we get akathartos, which is the masculine, and it is something or someone who is impure or unclean. So you see how the masculine-feminine dichotomy plays out again, looking at the characteristic or the quality versus having that applied to a person or a thing. Let's end with a couple of English words that are directly derived from Greek. So these are English alpha privatives that come straight from Greek. First up, the word atheist. In English, an atheist is someone who doesn't believe in God, right? Someone who thinks there is no God, no deity, period. Comes from the Greek theos, God or deity, and it has been deprived with the alpha, atheos, there's no God, atheist, someone who believes there is no deity. Similar, agnostic means someone who says, I won't go so far as to say there isn't a God, but I personally don't believe that there is a God. I'm not convinced. And it comes from gnosis, knowledge, agnosis, a lack of knowledge, a lack of conviction there. Not saying that it isn't, but I just don't know. I don't know for sure, so I'm not going to take a stand on it. And then finally, amoral. So if something is moral, or if someone is moral, they're concerned with what is right or wrong. But if something is amoral or amoral, it is not concerned with right or wrong. It doesn't regard that, or it doesn't even believe there is such a thing as right or wrong. So there are alpha privatives. The alpha deprives the noun of its sort of essential meaning by eliminating it, limiting it, or reducing its power influence. If you're looking for some homework, go look for some other examples of alpha privatives in the New Testament. For instance, go take a good look at the phrase, sin is lawlessness in 1 John. Or take a look in Luke's Gospel, chapter 15, and look in verse 16, at the way the manner of living of the prodigal son is described when he's in the far off country. And you'll see a great alpha privative there that's really fascinating. I hope that was good for you. Glenville, thanks for the lead into alpha privatives. And until we see one another again, Charis Kairene Humin, grace and peace to you.